The President. Questions. Question number 1, the Honorable Mrs. Regina IP. Thank you, President. It has been reported that after the epidemic, many cities have hosted world tour concerts by world-class singers, attracting fans from all over the world to attend the concerts. In addition to the proceeds from tickets and merchandise, these concerts also boost industries such as tourism, retail, and catering, thereby promoting economic development. In this connection, will the government inform this council, one, of the details of the government's existing measures to assist organizers in identifying suitable venues, arranging entry visas, etc., to attract well-renowned singers to hold concerts in Hong Kong? 2, whether it will consider adopting a form of dedicated funding, such as relaxing the eligibility criteria of the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund to cover concerts, so as to secure international pop concerts to be held in Hong Kong. If so, of the details and implementation timetable, if not, the reasons for that. 3, as there are views pointing out that some concert organizers have no plan to come to Hong Kong because they consider that Hong Kong lacks major venues, and given that the main stadium of the Kai Tak Sports Park will be commissioned this year, whether the government will proactively liaise with the industry and relevant stakeholders to jointly formulate plans on promoting the use of the Kai Tak Sports Park as a major performance venue. If so, the details, if not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. President, Hong Kong is the events capital of Asia. There are mega cultural, sports, entertainment, financial events happening in Hong Kong around the year. While quite a number of them organized or funded by the government, many more are organized by the private sector, such as entertainment events including concerts. They operate on commercial principles without the government's intervention. We are glad to see more large-scale concerts starred by international renowned singers and groups to be hosted in Hong Kong. This will not only help Hong Kong develop into an East-Meets-West Center for international cultural exchange, but also attract tourists and boost the economy. In consultation with the Security Bureau and the Development Bureau, my reply to Mrs. Regina IP's question is as follows. In considering the location and venue for conducting a large-scale pop concert for international renowned singers, most organizers will first take into account the singer's schedule and then business factors such as the scale, feasibility, viability, target audience group, and size and venue facilities. Hong Kong has the distinctive advantages of enjoying strong support of the motherland and is being closely connected to the world. Geographically, it is in the Greater Bay Area and has a broad audience base. It is well connected with the mainland, with transportation networks. Apart from having the characteristics of the integration of Chinese and foreign cultures, Hong Kong also possesses performance venues of different scales and supporting facilities which can meet the needs of various forms of performances. All these have attracted well-renowned singers to come to Hong Kong. The number of large-scale pop concerts, many of which were performances by international renowned singers held in Hong Kong, has gradually returned to the pre-pandemic level. According to statistics, on average, there are about 2 international renowned singers holding large-scale concerts with an audience of more than 10,000 each month in 2023, and most of them were holding more than one show. So far, a number of renowned singers have also confirmed that they will come to Hong Kong to perform in 2024. As regards venues, extremely popular concert venue like the Hong Kong Coliseum has enjoyed close to 100% occupancy over the past 5 years. As to Asia World Expo and the Central Harbourfront event space, amongst large-scale events organized therein last year, there were pop music concerts with a turnout of 10,000 to 20,000. It can be seen that Hong Kong is an attractive place for holding such performances. Holding of concerts is a purely market-led commercial decision. The government rarely provides financial assistance. Having said that, government departments has been providing appropriate assistance and facilitation measures to attract and encourage more such singers to come to Hong Kong. Now, we keep in touch with concert organizers from time to time to understand their plans and aspirations. We understand that given international renowned singers have busy schedules, they have to confirm the performance time and location in advance to plan the itinerary. So the LCSC has offered special bookings arrangements for organizers of such performances, allowing them to submit booking applications, which will be considered with priority to the LCSC more than 1 year in advance. In addition, we're seeing more waterfront venues for holding large-scale events. Apart from the Central Harbourfront event space, the Harbourfront event space in Wan Chau, with an area of about 1.4 hectares, is now available for rental by interested parties through short-term tenancies. If an organizer intends to hold a concert in Hong Kong, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau and the Hong Kong Tourism Board will refer to the venue operator so that the two parties can further discuss and conduct business negotiations, and will continue to provide appropriate support in the process. In fact, venue operators have commercial incentive to proactively reach out to concert organizers and arrange for more large-scale concerts to be held at their venues. In addition, CSTB and the Tourism Commission also provide targeted one-stop support to mega events with significant visitor appeal and tourism promotional effect. Such support includes coordination between the organizers and bureaus and departments, assisting the organizers in obtaining the necessary licenses or approvals to resolve various issues encountered throughout event organization, and collaborating the tourism trade to jointly develop tourism products. As regards support for entry arrangements, under the current arrangements, non-local persons may apply for employment, including short-term employment for holding a concert under the General Employment Policy or the admission scheme for mainland talents and professionals. The Immigration Department will consider each application on its own merits and provide facilitation as far as practicable. Part 3 of the question. The government has been planning new facilities in the past years to meet the demand for venues for large-scale events, including concerts. Occupying an area of about 28 hectares, the Kai Tak Sports Park will soon be completed by phases by the end of this year, providing the public with world-class venues suitable for a variety of activities. There are 3 main facilities in the park, among which the main stadium is equipped with a retractable roof with sound insulation function and a flexible turf system that can accommodate up to 50,000 seats for large-scale performance events. As for the indoor sports center, it is also equipped with a retractable seating system capable of hosting entertainment events that are such as concert for up to 10,000 spectators. Kai Tak Sports Park Limited, being the contractor of the park, is required to organize sports events on a certain number of days every year according to the conditions of contract and operating requirements. For the remaining days of the year, the venues can be used to host different large-scale events such as concerts to cater for the needs of different sectors. The company has to actively promote the park to the sports sector and entertainment industry, both internationally and internationally, with a view to introducing more diversified events into the sports park and promoting the venue as an international sports and entertainment destination of choice, thereby promoting sports park as a new landmark for sports, leisure, and entertainment events and strengthening Hong Kong's position as an events capital. Mrs. Regina IP was only given a very bureaucratic answer. It was not specific. Now, top 10 artists such as Taylor Swift reaped $1 billion in the U.S. for 6 shows. She went to Singapore. We lost that opportunity. Now we have a major venue commissioning in Kai Tak this year. Will the government proactively fight for such a top-notch artists such as Beyonce to come to Hong Kong? And there is no reply as to whether the eligibility criteria of the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund will be relaxed to cover concerts. You must be more proactive, Secretary. Of course, upon commissioning of the Kai Tak Sports Park, the contractor as well as the government will promote the sports park as a major event for sports and entertainment and mega events. Concerts, of course, will be one of our target events. There are well-renowned bands and singers. Whether they want to come to Hong Kong, well, it's also within our plans to invite them to come. Usually, for internationally renowned bands and singers to come to Hong Kong, usually there will be a co-organizer in Hong Kong. They want to pick the right venue. They have to know the rules. They like to know arrangement for ticket sales and also promotion. They need a local organization to help. So we will discuss with these organizations to see how we can attract as many as well-renowned singers to come to Hong Kong. As regards individual decisions, it is for the market to decide. It is not for the government to set objectives to invite or to have individual singers or groups to come to Hong Kong, but we'll reach out to organizers, local organizers. We will also reach out to international organizers for holding large-scale international events. We will promote the sports park to them to encourage them to come to Hong Kong and hold concerts. As regards the Arts Culture Mega Fund, the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund, the fund was set up with the intention to attract well-renowned mega events to come to Hong Kong. We hope that they can come back every year so that it becomes a regular event, such as the Basel Arts Festival. Every year we have attracted visitors to Hong Kong for the event. And from time to time, we have mega arts and cultural events with support from the fund. We do not sponsor concerts as a regular policy because most concerts are commercial activities. But when there is an application to the Mega Arts and Cultural Events Fund, will be considered on a case-by-case basis. Mr. Ka Fei, mega events and concerts are very important to our economy. I thank the Secretary because of the past year, many contractors have told me that they want to cooperate with the government in holding major events. I've referred them to the Bureau. As for internationally renowned singers coming to Hong Kong, according to organizers, they may take the initiative to promote ticket sales, etc. They understand that these singers would appreciate staunch support from local governments. Take Blackpink as an example. During world tours, they were given awards from upper echelon of governments. So if the government can reach out to these singers, perhaps their likelihood of coming is higher. Will the Secretary consider this? Secretary, depending on the needs of individual events, we can do a lot more to help. For instance, whether it be the Tourism Board or my bureau, in major events, when we have well-renowned singers and games players in Hong Kong, we will collaborate to promote Hong Kong. And if they have any requests in the operation, we will offer our assistance as far as possible. As for whether we should present special awards to them, well, if there is the intention or plan, if they consider fit, we can consider that. But there is no use to present award to all singers performing in Hong Kong. Our approach is to collaborate with these organizers to make it easy to facilitate their holding concerts in Hong Kong so that together we can do the job well. And we'll also take the opportunity to promote Hong Kong in the process so that Hong Kong can be a place of mega events. Mr. Holden Chow, since the Kai Tak Sports Park will be commissioned by the end of this year, it can host 50,000 spectators. So we no longer say that we don't have venue for holding large-scale concerts. We talked about Taylor Swift because of the great economic benefits her concerts brought to a local community. Now, the government has stressed that concerts are commercial activities. Will the government take the initiative to approach well-renowned singers, or you can, together with co-organizers, reach out to them? You may not always succeed, but your participation is a gesture of sincerity. While other governments are doing that, I think we should do the same. Of course, the organizer and co-organizers are private enterprises, but the government should be involved to show our sincerity to increase their chance of coming to Hong Kong. Secretary. Thank you, President. Of course, we can discuss with local organizers. We can even liaise with the managers and agents of world-renowned singers and groups. When the Kai Tak Sports Park is commissioned, we can also ask intermediaries to help to ascertain their intention. In principle, we welcome all to come to Hong Kong. We should encourage the contractor of the Kai Tak Sports Park and also intermediaries in Hong Kong to identify or to reach out to more international bands and singers to Hong Kong because they have different audience appeals. In Hong Kong, we like diversity. We will invite the renowned, famous ones as far as possible. Mr. Martinez. Now, for international renowned singers, they have a high expectation for the stage design, the sound effect, etc. It is said that some of our venues are rather old-fashioned. They do not have enough technical support for such performances. So will we upgrade the software and hardware of performance venues? And will we reach out to these well-renowned artists so that they can come to Hong Kong? Secretary. Many well-renowned singers and large-scale concerts will organize their own sound and stage equipment because they have their own thinking about the stage design. Let's take the Hong Kong Coliseum as an example, and also the Central Waterfront event space. There is room for accommodating different equipment and facilities. So it is easier for singers and performers to put in place equipment they want to suit their needs. This is better than for us to provide facilities that may not suit all. Many of our venues are multi-purpose. Hong Kong Coliseum can be used for sports games and as well as for concerts. Different purposes will need different equipment. For the cultural center, which is a dedicated performing venue, the size may be smaller, but then the specifications for the equipment are higher. We upgrade its facilities on a regular basis. In East Kowloon, we have a new cultural center. The multimedia equipment there is state-of-the-art. For older venues, such as the theater of cultural center and City Hall, depending on the needs of the stakeholders, the state of new technology, we do upgrade them from time to time because we have to consider the financial aspect as well. Reverend Canon Peter Kuhn. Thank you, President. Now we have Asia World Expo. It is one of our performance venues. There are criticisms that it is not well supported by transport infrastructure. So will you consider improving the traffic support for this venue when we have major events? Secretary, when we have a major concert at Asia World Expo, the railway is the main public means of transport to bring people to different places, and there are coaches and buses there to serve the spectators. There are arrangements for Asia World Expo to facilitate the visitors from the mainland and Macau. We'll continue to discuss with the operator of Asia World Expo. They also have the duty to make the place convenient. They have to make the spectators happy, and public transport support is one of the factors they should look into. Mr. Sunny Tan. Thank you, President. Pop concerts is pop culture and also performing art. Now, in the mainland, they have many official merchandise. Sometimes they will sell merchandise designed specifically for a particular concert. So can we can we help to liaise local designers with concert organizers to design special merchandise and clothing for sale? Well, it all depends on the negotiations between the organizer and the designers. Sometimes we have concerts selling merchandise at the shows. It depends on how the singer or the agent handle the copyright and also the patent of such cultural merchandise. We will bring that up when the opportunity arises.
Question to Mr. Tang Fei. President, the latest policy address has proposed to develop Hong Kong into an international hub for post-secondary education. There are views that while building for the future, the government also needs to review the present, such as how to promote the HKDSE, Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education Examination Program. In this connection, will the government inform this council one of the strategies and measures which it has adopted or plans to adopt to promote the HKDSE program to places outside the territory so as to enable the DSE program to go global? 2, given that for talents coming to Hong Kong through the various schemes to compete for talents, that children may study in Hong Kong in the capacity as dependents of the strategies and measures which the government has adopted or plans to adopt to publicize the DSE program to talents coming to Hong Kong and attract their children to enroll in such program. And 3, as it has been reported that the number of medical students admitted to the Faculty of Medicine of the University of Hong Kong through JUPAS, the Joint University Programs Admission System, only accounts for 45% of the number of places of its medical programs in the current school year, which has fallen short of the pledge target of 75% for 8 consecutive years. And there are views that local tertiary institutions do not see the DSE program as a superior program of the strategies and measures which the government has adopted or plans to adopt to improve the DSE program. Secretary for Education. President has mentioned in the Chief Executive Policy Address 2023 will make use of the advantages of the internationalization and diversification of education in Hong Kong to develop the city into an international hub for post-secondary education. The SAR government has endeavored to plan the development of education in the light of the macro perspective to cultivate and attract multicultural talents for not only creating strong impetus for the growth of Hong Kong, strengthening people-to-people bond, but also proactively integrating into the country's development. The wide recognition of the Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education or HKDSE examination as an academic qualification in Hong Kong and abroad reflects that the Hong Kong's brand of quality education is widely recognized locally and internationally. Our reply to the question raised by Mr. Tang Fei is as follows. 1. The implementation of the new senior secondary curriculum reform and the successful organization of the first DSE exam in 2012 was a new milestone of the secondary education in Hong Kong. We've been proactively promoting the senior secondary curriculum of Hong Kong and the DSE exam in Hong Kong and abroad. The qualification of DSE, apart from being recognized by the tertiary institutions in Hong Kong and employers for further studies and employment, is also recognized by about 600 tertiary institutions abroad. Besides, nearly 140 mainland higher education institutions enrolled DSE students to their degree programs through the scheme for admission for Hong Kong students to mainland higher education institutions. As a matter of fact, the DSE exam has many advantages. First, it gives full play to Hong Kong's characteristics of being biliterate, trilingual, and inclusive. The exam can be taken in Chinese or English, and its qualification is widely and internationally recognized. For candidates taking exams in Chinese, they can choose to answer in writing in traditional or simplified Chinese characters, or use Cantonese or Putonghua to answer in oral exams. Besides, the curriculum focuses on a broad and balanced knowledge base, values the contemporary issues that affect our daily lives at personal, community, national, and global levels, and cultivates informed and responsible citizens with a sense of national identity and global vision. The curriculum, being flexible and diversified, offers not only traditional academic subjects but also applied learning subjects for selection, which demonstrates the concept of convergence of vocational and general education and helps students plan their careers. The DSE offers a wide choice of subjects, including some 50 applied learning subjects and 6 other language subjects, being capable of catering for the different interests of candidates. Also, the DSE exam is fair, objective, and reliable. It adopts a standards referenced reporting system to report candidates' exam results, which is in line with the international standards. The DSE exam has all along been moving with the times and making refinements in response to the latest developments in the education sector and the community. For instance, 6 applied learning subjects such as Introduction to FinTech and Digital Construction will be introduced in 2025. Given the many Hong Kong people heading to the mainland cities of the Greater Bay Area for development, to facilitate the children of Hong Kong people to study the Hong Kong curriculum in the mainland and register for the DSE exam and pursue further studies, the Hong Kong Examinations and Assessment Authority has accepted 2 schools for Hong Kong children recognized by the relevant education authorities in the mainland to offer the senior secondary curriculum of Hong Kong as the participating schools of the 2024 DSE exam in September 2023. Also, to cater for the learning needs of non-Chinese speaking students, the DSE exam offers the exam of Applied Learning Chinese for non-Chinese speaking students. To further promote the international recognition of the DSE exam, the HKEAA introduces its latest developments through various events such as education fairs, physical and online seminars and meetings, and so on. The mainland or overseas or in Hong Kong, including the promotion to the admission staff of the overseas tertiary institutions through online seminars to enhance the recognition of the DSE exam. Also, the HKEAA attended the Mainland Higher Education Expo, jointly organized by the Ministry of Education and the Education Bureau in December 2023 to introduce the DSE exam qualification to over 100 mainland universities and institutions. Also, the 2023 policy address proposed to develop Hong Kong into an international hub for post-secondary education will take forward the relevant work to promote the international recognition of DSE exam. The Education Bureau supports the government in recruiting talents from all over the world. We have introduced a number of measures with other government departments and school sector to facilitate the incoming talents to understand the education system in Hong Kong and apply for the appropriate schools and programs for their children. The children of the incoming talents may study in local schools, including public sector schools, DSS schools, or private schools. They can also choose to study in international schools. We explain to talents who are planning to come to Hong Kong for development on matters relating to local admission and further studies through web pages and online seminars, etc. 3. In the past few years, the proportion of students successfully admitted to the UGC-funded first-year, first-degree undergraduate programs through the JUPAS with DSE exam results has consistently accounted for about 80% of the total number of local students, whereas the proportion of students admitted with sub-degree qualifications and other qualifications have each accounted for about 10%. We believe DSE candidates will continue to be the major source of the new students to be admitted to the UGC-funded programs. The optimizing measures with the DSE exam core subjects, including the gradual implementation of the optimizing work for the Category A elective subjects, ongoing introduction of more Category B subjects which are recognized by the tertiary institutions, and the introduction of new arrangement of Category C subjects had been implemented starting from the 2024 DSE exam to broaden the knowledge base of students. In the 2024 DSE exam, more than 40% of school candidates took 3 elective subjects in addition to the 4 core subjects, which is a significant increase as compared with the 2023 exam, where only about 20% of school candidates took 3 elective subjects, reflecting that the enhancement measures can facilitate schools to release lesson time and increase flexibility of the curriculum. Thank you, President. Mr. Tang Fei, according to the government website, if we look at the overseas recognition of the DSE program, about 600 tertiary institutions overseas recognize the DSE qualification. 300 of them are from the mainland and about 300 are from overseas. These 300 overseas universities requirement for DSE exam are applicable to those who take the exam before 2024. But there is a drop of 77 universities that recognize the DSE exam qualifications. I'm not sure if these universities no longer recognize students with DSE qualifications. What measures will be put in place by the government to ensure the competitiveness of DSE exam qualification and that it will be comparable to the international baccalaureate qualification? Thank you. Secretary, as mentioned in my reply, the DSE exam qualification is widely recognized by different places around the world. For higher education institutions in the mainland, there are 140 of them that enroll Hong Kong DSE students. Overseas, there are hundreds of tertiary educations that recognize the DSE qualification, including the UK, Canada, Australia, and the US. These are countries that are popular among Hong Kong DSE students for pursuing further studies. Also, Japan and South Korea, Singapore, there are universities in Asian countries that recognize the DSE exam qualifications. We will further strengthen our promotion as an international hub for post-secondary education to the world. While we take forward the promotional work, apart from promoting our advantages in the post-secondary education sector, we'll also promote our latest development of the DSE program. Over the past few years, we wrote out some enhancement or optimization measures in relation to the HKDSE curriculum, and these enhancement measures will be taken forward starting from this year's DSE exam. We will do more publicity work so that overseas education institutions will understand our advantages. Thank you. Mr. Chi Kwok-keung, to develop ourselves into an international hub for post-secondary education, there have been advocates that we have to develop ourselves as IDSE. However, the government has not been willing to do so. As we see a drop of DSE candidates, we are seeing a loss in money in terms of running the DSE program. If we do not broaden our source of revenue, would it be responsible for the government to continue to run the program this way? Secretary, to internationalize the DSE program, well, our targets are students from different places around the world. We need detailed planning as well as cooperation from different parties. Currently, we have rolled out different subjects for the DSE program. Should we have an adjustment to the curriculum in relation to the subjects as well as the assessment framework? We have to study room for adjustment in detail. We have been in talks with the HKEAA about this to hold DSE exams in other places in the world. Well, we are open to this. We will continue to assess the situation and we will continue to monitor the situation in terms of the education development in different places around the world to make a judgment. Mr. Tang mentioned about international exam such as IB and GCE. These exam programs have been moving with the times and we've seen adjustments to these programs. If we are to hold an international DSE program, how can we leverage our strengths and advantages? We will have to make a comprehensive assessment. Thank you. Ms. Lillian Kwok. President, the HKEAA has replied to the press about this. In 2024, about 1,400 mainland candidates are sitting for the exam. We have to look at mainland students. In 2023, the administration mentioned that it will fight for holding DSE exams in the mainland. Also, in 2023, 2 institutions in the mainland will hold DSE for Hong Kong students in the mainland. We have high expectations on DSE exams to be held in the mainland. However, on the 1st of April, on the 4th of January this year, there was mentioning that further discussions will have to be held in order to finalize the details. What is the latest progress on holding DSE exams in the mainland? For the 2024 DSE exams, would it be possible for us to see students taking DSE exams in the mainland? Secretary, in terms of holding DSE exams in the mainland, we've never given up on this thought. Earlier this year, we mentioned that we will identify schools or campuses or venues that are suitable for holding DSE exams in the mainland. The Education Bureau and the HKEAA are trying their best to talk with the relevant mainland authorities and departments on this. If we have good news or further news, we will announce them in due course. Early February, we will have to issue the exam licenses to students. As Ms. Lillian Kwok mentioned, 2 participating schools that are in the Greater Bay Area, and we have been in close contact with these 2 participating schools. If we have new arrangements, we'll make the announcement in due course. 2, set up exam venues in the Greater Bay Area is the facilitation measures for students. It is to facilitate eligible students in the mainland to sit for the exams without having to travel to Hong Kong to take the exam. As mentioned, we will actively take forward our work and discuss with the relevant authorities and departments. Thank you. Professor William Wong, I'd like to follow up on the previous question. In order to set up venues outside of Hong Kong for the DSE exams, has the government come up with standards to assess the eligibility of applicants, not only from the Greater Bay Area but also from other places? Secretary, I thank member for the question. Firstly, the HKEAA has set standards for schools, for instance, in GBA, to decide whether they're eligible to hold DSE exams. school that provide DSE programs or curriculum, if they are in the Greater Bay Area, they will have to go through assessment by the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications. They have to meet the relevant criteria to show that they are qualified for providing the program. We have to ensure that their quality is comparable to that of schools in Hong Kong. For participating schools, students from these participating schools can sit for DSE exams. We have to look at whether these participating schools can provide suitable venues to hold the DSE exam. Not all schools can become participating schools. However, students through their own studies or in the capacity as a self-study students, they can still take the exam. This year we have about 1,400 mainland students or non-local students who are studying the DSE program in the mainland. They are going to take the exam as a self-study student or as a student from participating schools. Thank you. Professor Lau Chi-peng. Thank you, President. I'd like to follow up on education of children of incoming talents to Hong Kong. I understand quite a number of children of incoming talents are studying in public sector schools or private schools for the DSE program. Many mainland talents who come to Hong Kong, they hope that their children can receive US-style education in Hong Kong schools. They mainly aim at the UK or IB curriculum for their children. Would the government support schools in Hong Kong to provide US-style education? Professor Lau, your question has derailed from the main question. Secretary, in this morning's ESC meeting, some members asked about international schools in Hong Kong. We have noticed that for talents who come to Hong Kong through the Top Talent Pass scheme, they want to send their children to not only local schools but also private schools or international schools. So at the end of last month, the Education Bureau announced that in Kowloon Tong and in North Point, we have reserved 2 vacant school campuses. And we invite bodies and groups that are interested to express their interest to see whether they would like to offer non-local education programs in Hong Kong. We have been paying attention to the supply of places in by international schools, and we've been making assessment on the demand and supply. We noticed that since we have resumed normal travel last year, the government has rolled out a number of talent admission schemes, and we've seen the results of the talent admission scheme, and we've seen a higher demand for school places from children of incoming talents. That's why we have reserved 2 vacant campuses for groups and bodies that are interested in applying to use the campuses. As for the point about US-style education, there are demands for such programs in Hong Kong. We invite groups and organizations to express their interests. However, they don't necessarily have to offer a specific type of programs. Of course, if there are groups and organizations that see a very high demand for a particular type of programs and curriculum, they are welcome to express their interest and make applications to us. Thank you, President.
Question number 3, Honorable LAI Tung-kwok. President, the government attaches great importance. It has been reported that Hong Kong has long been bothered by the problems of torture claims. As at the end of October last year, about 14,700 claimants were still stranded in Hong Kong. There are views that the government must adopt decisive measures to eradicate incentives for torture claimants to stay in Hong Kong and take up unlawful employment. In addition, in June last year, the court pointed out in a judgment handed down on a case involving a claimant that those unsubstantiated torture claimants who are detained pending removal from Hong Kong can make the length of detention unreasonably long by refusing to provide cooperation in obtaining the travel document and then applying for a writ of habeas corpus to challenge the legality of their detention. The court further pointed out that to break this impasse, one possible way to consider would be to criminalize such acts of non-cooperation. In this connection, would the government inform this council? 1. Whether it accepts the aforesaid suggestion by the court and the time for its implementation. If it does not accept the suggestion, or there is no timetable yet of the reasons for that. 2. Of the number of times in the past 3 years that the authorities exercise the power under Section 37ZK of the Immigration Ordinance to detain torture claimants pending final determination of their claims. And 3. Whether it will consider revising the policy so as to fully exercise the power under Section 37ZK of the Immigration Ordinance to detain persons who have lodged torture claims, thereby eliminating the situation of unlawful employment taken up by them. Secretary for Security. President, the government attaches great importance to the issue relating to non-refoulement claims and has all along adopted a multi-pronged strategy. The Security Bureau amended the legislation in 2023 to include the Nei Kwu Correctional Institution as a place of detention of the Immigration Department, thereby increasing the total number of detention capacity by 33% to 900. Immigration Department is committed to making gainful use of the existing facilities to detain claimants who pose higher security risks to the community in accordance with the law. On the other hand, since the introduction of the updated removal policy with effect from December 7, 2022, Immigration Department will generally proceed with the removal of unsubstantiated claimants from Hong Kong upon dismissal of their judicial review of relevant leave applications pertaining to their non-refoulement claims by the Court of First Instance or CFI, irrespective of whether there are outstanding court proceedings. Since the implementation of the updated policy up until end of 2023, Immigration Department has removed a total of 1,851 claimants from Hong Kong, including 215 under the updated policy. The number in 2023 has significantly increased by 63% compared to 2022. In response to the respective parts of the question raised by Mr. Lai, my reply is as follows. 1. The government amended the Immigration Ordinance in 2021 to include provisions addressing claimants' delaying tactics, which is applicable to assess the reasonableness and lawfulness of the detention period, such as whether the claimants have been cooperative in obtaining travel documents for returning to their countries of origin and whether they have caused any hindrance to the removal process, etc. The judgment referred to in the question suggests making reference to a piece of legislation in the United Kingdom which specifies that it is a criminal offence for a non-refoulement claimant to be uncooperative in obtaining a travel document, causing delays to his or her removal. The period of imprisonment is not subject to the principles of administrative detention. We have studied the judgment concerned and consider that even similar legislation were made, those uncooperative claimants can still insist to be uncooperative after serving their prison terms, repeatedly using the relevant provisions to prosecute the same consistently uncooperative detainee may not only induce controversy and legal challenges on the lawfulness but also involves substantial resources in processing the investigation of criminal cases. Therefore, we must be prudent. Recently, another judgment handed down by the Court of Appeal could better help solve claimants' uncooperative behaviors. In July 2023, the government lodged an appeal, or CACV 229/2022
2023 against the CFI of the High Court for allowing the habeas corpus application of a claimant who had been sentenced to imprisonment for rape in November 2023, 3 justices of appeal of the CA unanimously allowed the appeal. The relevant judgment specified that any period of prolonged detention or delay in the processing of non-refoulement claim caused by detainees' uncooperative or unreasonable behavior should not be regarded or counted as unreasonable period of detention. Otherwise, it would result in an absurd situation where the more uncooperative the detainee behaves in the removal procedures, the more likely he or she is to be released. That is against the intention of the relevant common law principles. This judgment directly provides clear legal guidance on relevant common law principles, which greatly facilitates the government in detaining claimants in accordance with the law without the need to make separate legislation and then spend time and resources on subsequent criminal prosecutions. 2 and 3. According to Section 37 Sat K of the Ordinance, a claimant pending final determination of his claim may be detained. From 2021 to 2023, the numbers of claimants detained by Immigration Department under Section 37 Sat K are 263, 241, and 538 respectively, which accounted for 10%, 19%, and 25% respectively against the number of new claimants in that year. When considering detention under Section 37 Sat K, the government must carefully consider the legal issues, the use of resources, and the security. The government is required to follow the relevant legislation, legal principles established by the court under the common law, such as proportionality and reasonableness, as well as our detention policy, and takes into account the individual circumstances, including whether the final determination of a claim can be obtained within a reasonable time, whether the individual concerned has previously committed a serious crime, and if so, whether he or she is likely to pose a threat or security risk to the community if not being detained, and whether there is any risk of the individual absconding, offending, or reoffending, etc. In 2014, the CFA ruled that the hard-using principles under the common law must be observed by Immigration Department during the course of removal procedures, i.e., such illegal immigrant may only be detained for a period that is reasonable, and Immigration Department cannot continue to detain that person if it becomes apparent that it will not be able to effect removal within that reasonable period. On the use of resources, the government must take into account the efficient use of public money and the sustainability of the policy based on the number of new claims of some 2,100 received in 2023, and that claimants remain in Hong Kong for an average of 3 years over the past 3 years as the estimation goes. Invoking Section 37 Sat K or other provisions in full would require around 6,300 additional detention places, taking the Stanley Prison as an example, which is the largest correctional institution with a capacity of around 1,500. In order to increase the number of detention places by 6,300, the government will need to build an additional detention facility with a scale equivalent to 4 Stanley prisons. The government will also need to reserve billions of operating funds to employ additional thousands of officers to implement such policy, which we must carefully consider. On the security front, the risk and security issues brought by large-scale detention of claimants cannot be underestimated. In the past, Vietnamese migrants were involved in gang fighting in closed camps day after day, and even triggered several riots which led to deaths and casualties. For example, in 1992, Vietnamese migrants assaulted each other inside the Shek Kong detention center and set fire to a hut, which led to 24 deaths. Currently, claimants come from different countries with different cultures and religious backgrounds, which will pose greater security risks. We have taken into consideration factors including law, financial resources, and security, and consider that the suggestion of full detention of all claimants is not appropriate. The government will continue to gainfully make use of the existing detention facilities to detain claimants who pose higher security risks to the community and expedite the removal of unsubstantiated claimants from Hong Kong. The law enforcement agencies will also step up enforcement actions against immigration offences and illegal employment in order to lower the economic incentives of claimants. Thank you, President. Well, President, both the community and myself are very disappointed about the reply given, because this is a long-standing problem which has bothered us for a long time. Adopting this approach is not enough. We have to have effective measures in order to dampen the desire to work unlawfully. The administration has adopted this 3-year average detention approach in assessing the resources that would be required to implement this full detention policy. And also, some members of the public might also get the wrong message that the administration is not able to deal with this problem effectively. And all it needs is for the Immigration Department to complete the investigation or vetting in 10 weeks, and also for the backlog, that would also come down by 72%, and there are only about 1,400 outstanding cases. And so long as we can make a decision very expeditiously, I believe that we can achieve the target. Well, the concern that the detention period might be unreasonably long is not reasonable. In fact, instead of adopting the 3-year approach, you should adopt a more reasonable estimate under Section 37 ZK. Well, how much time will be spent for completing the final determination of the detention? I think you should adopt that as the basis for your estimate. Well, for the torture claimants, we cannot just look at Section 37 ZK, because 37 ZK means that the claimant is waiting here for the determination of their refugee status, and they could also lodge appeal after appeal, and therefore we have to invoke Section 32 to continue to detain him. So we cannot just look at 37 ZK to decide whether or not they have to be released. We will have to look at it holistically. And also we have adopted the average 3-year detention period that has been calculated on scientific basis. For example, in the past 3 years, how many detainees or claimants have made such claims, and in the end, how much time has been spent on determining their status. We have used those statistics as the basis for making this estimate, and therefore we have to refer to the CFA's judgment, that is the Hardew-Singh principle, that is they can only be detained where reasonable. And also, it's about the resources that would be required, because we will need space and also manpower in order to detain these people. And if the venue is not appropriate, then it would be like the closed camp for Vietnamese refugees in the past. They could escape, and that would also lead to security risks. And if you just arbitrarily detain them, and if they have to be managed with excessive resources, then that could result in riots or even incidents that could cause deaths and casualties. And therefore, we will have to be very careful. We will also have to act in accordance with the law. Mr. Kwok Wai Kang, well, the abuse by torture claimants of the situation has been something that we have been concerned about. And we are talking about use of hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And these fake torture claimants come to Hong Kong because they like to make more money. And they are also abusing our system. And according to an international institution, according to the feedback from their members, well, they have been exploited, and they have also suffered as a result of such unlawful or illegal claimants. And as a result, some ethnic minority groups, even after they have set up their accounts, they would just share their jobs with those with this certificate of torture claimants. And even after they have reported the cases to the police, nothing has been done about it. And if we do not clamp down on such unlawful work, then the situation will get out of control. And therefore, the administration must step up efforts in clamping down on such illegal activities, and for those who hire such unlawful or illegal workers, they would also have to be punished. Secretary, yes, we understand that, well, there have been so many torture claimants who are staying in Hong Kong. They've taken up a lot of resources, and what they've been doing might also cause concerns to the community. We do understand this concern, but then the administration also has some responsibility in dealing with such torture claimants in accordance with the law. We understand that if they take up jobs, then of course it's already an offense itself. That would also cause problems to those in Hong Kong, and therefore we will have to tackle the problem at source. And of course, preventing them from taking illegal jobs would also be one of what we have to do. And we will also have to clamp down on those who hire these illegal workers. And if evidence is available, then of course we will prosecute. We will not hesitate. Next, Dr. Junius Ho. Well, with regard to the explanation given by the Secretary, I don't agree. Yes, when you have this awareness that where there is a will, there is a way. And therefore, when it comes to illegal workers, well, in fact, they claim to be tortured. They claim to be victims of torture. In fact, that is not the case. So once we know that, we know what to do. Well, we are talking about billions of dollars being spent over the past decade or so. We have already spent a lot on them. And therefore, whether or not you're invoking 36 or 46, whatever, you will have to come up with a way to tackle the problem. So long as there is a will, there is a way, or else there will be this impasse. And therefore, Secretary, you will have to consider this. If the UK government is able to deal with such illegal immigrants, and they have been sent to Rwanda for detention, and if they can change the law that way, then why can't you do the same? Whether it's Section 36 of Section 46, just table the legislation before us, and then we'll pass it for you. So you don't have to hesitate. So long as we work hand in hand, we'll be able to do whatever we want. Thank you. Thank you, President. We do have the will to act in accordance with the law, including how we can deal with this problem of torture claimants. Hong Kong is a place where there is rule of law, and therefore we will have to respect the law, and we do have the responsibility under the law to deal with such non-refoulement claims. And of course, we will do a lot of things in order to ensure that they will be dealt with expeditiously, including a highly efficient vetting procedure in order to reduce the time needed by some 60%. And we have also updated return policy so that once a determination is made by the court, removal of such claimants will be done very expeditiously. And also under Section 33, we will also be able to adopt a multi-pronged approach. But then in the process, we will have to act in strict accordance with the law. And Dr. Ho also said that we should do what the UK did by sending the detainees to Rwanda. Well, that has given rise to a lot of legal challenges. It's not as simple as just having the determination or judgment made by the court and then we can do it. And in fact, in the UK, there are still a lot of pending cases to be settled. And even if you send them to Rwanda, they would not just accept the detainees for free. You will also have to give them resources in order to do that. Do we have those resources? And whether or not those resources should be used in other ways in order to reduce the problem. And in the UK, what they have done has also been subject to a lot of international organizations, including the UN's criticisms. So should we follow suit? Or should we also have our own way of dealing with that in accordance with the law? So that's something that we have to bear in mind. Mr. Paul Chair. President, first, I'd like to correct the information. Well, the Secretary said that it's not settled. In fact, the Supreme Court in the UK, it has been ruled that this is unlawful. And also, I'm sure you would know that just a couple of days ago, there was a unanimous vetoing of the LAI Tung-kwok Detention Center's funding proposal. So I agree that the resources spent on building more detention facilities will be substantial, and a lot of community resources have been spent on these detainees or torture claimants. So other than increasing the resources of our judiciary and also other than clamping down on illegal work, I think the resources that can be spent on them could also be made the best use of by telling a very good Hong Kong story. We should make sure that such a humanitarian way of handling such a torture claimants can be publicized so that everybody would understand this. So we are not going to send these torture claimants to Rwanda. So we have been very humanitarian when it comes to dealing with these claimants. So would that be considered? That is more publicity be done about it. Well, in telling good Hong Kong stories, there are many ways of doing it. And I think Mr. Paul Chair's suggestion is very imaginative. So we can consider it. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, President. Well, this question refers to what we have been doing, and yet still we have 1,470, the 700 claimants are still staying in Hong Kong. So can we criminalize uncooperation, and also can we invoke Section 37 ZK in dealing with them? Or the Secretary said that there were these problems and those problems, and therefore they are not desirable. And yet in the question, there's been no mention that suggests that we should detain all 6,300 torture claimants. So instead of telling us that, well, option A is problematic and then option B is not feasible, well, can the Security Secretary tell us what can be done to have a breakthrough? Secretary. Thank you, President. In 2021, we already amended the immigration ordinance. Precisely, that shows that we are attaching great importance to this. We are facing this problem very proactively. For example, for such non-refoulement claims, and also the non-removal policy, and also we have also increased the manpower for the appeal committee, and we have also increased the detention facilities for these claimants. So those have been very proactive. We have taken the initiative to deal with the problem effectively, and whether or not we'll be able to see immediate effect, probably not. It will take time. But then we believe that if we have not done those, instead of having some 6,000 torture claimants stuck in Hong Kong, we may have 14,000, 24,000, and so on. And therefore, we will have to do it properly. Thank you.
Question for Professor William Wong. Thank you, President. Starting from the 20th of February last year, 6 categories of mainland talents in the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area may apply for the exit endorsement for talents traveling to and from Hong Kong and Macau, which allows them to travel to and from Hong Kong multiple times within the validity period. Besides, the 2023 policy address has announced that foreign staff of companies registered in Hong Kong may apply for multiple entry visas, which are valid for 2 or more years to travel to the mainland. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1. of the number of persons traveling to Hong Kong with the aforesaid exit endorsements for talents since its implementation, together with a breakdown by category of talents and number of days of their stay. 2. Given that academic institutions such as post-secondary institutions are not companies registered in Hong Kong, whether the aforesaid multiple entry visa arrangement covers research and development personnel of such institutions, including students, teaching staff, and researchers, if so, of the application procedures, and whether an upper limit has been set on the number of applicants. If the arrangement does not cover such personnel, whether the government can strive for the mainland's introduction of the arrangement. And 3. Given that the development plan for Shenzhen Park of Hetao, Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone has proposed to provide travel convenience for R&D personnel, starting with a highly convenient first-time entry and exit model for customs clearance, of the progress of negotiations between the government and the mainland on the relevant arrangements. Secretary for Security. President, Hong Kong actively leverages on our distinctive advantages of being backed by the motherland and connected to the world under one country, two systems, to integrate into the country's development and serve well as the hub connecting the domestic and global markets. GBA is a major national strategy and the best entry point for us to actively integrate into the national development blueprint. A rich and diverse pool of human resources serves as major impetus for development. As such, the interactions and exchanges of talents in the GBA, especially the two-way flow of cooperation among I&T talents, are crucial to the development of Hong Kong and the construction of GBA. All these present unlimited promise for Hong Kong. The Hong Kong SAR government has been in close discussion with the mainland on facilitating the southbound and northbound flow of high-end talents in the GBA. In February 2023, the mainland introduced the southbound exit endorsements for talents, facilitating travel of 6 categories of talents. They are outstanding scientific research, education, healthcare, legal, and other talents to Hong Kong. Later on, in the latest policy address, it was announced that foreign staff of Hong Kong registered companies could make applications for northbound multiple entry visas to the mainland for 2 years or more with priority processing. This measure targets foreign staff holding a Hong Kong identity card. It is not limited to any particular industries or talents categories and is in line with the government's policy to actively maintaining diversity and internationalization. In response to the various parts of the question, my reply is as follows. 1. The southbound GBA exit endorsements for talents was introduced by the mainland in February last year. Eligible holders are allowed to travel to and from Hong Kong multiple times within the period of the exit endorsement. Each visit will not exceed 30 days, which is far longer than the normal 7-day period for other types of endorsements. As at the end of last year, nearly 10,000 talents have traveled to Hong Kong under the arrangements. They included 347 talents under the outstanding category with 5 years endorsements, 5,872 talents in the fields of scientific research, education, or healthcare with 3-year endorsements, and 3,739 talents under legal and other with endorsements valid for 1 year. We do not maintain statistics on the number of days of stay in Hong Kong for holders of these endorsements. Regarding the northbound travel of Hong Kong talents, the 2023 policy address announced the multiple entry visas policy. Since then, there has been a significant increase in the number of multiple entry visas issued for 2 or 5 years in Hong Kong, with about 9,000 applications approved. Before the introduction of the measure, most multiple entry visas approved for the first time in Hong Kong had a validity period of no more than 6 months. The 2 measures have been well received since their introduction and have greatly facilitated the two-way flow of talents in the GBA. 2. As mentioned above, the measure announced in the policy address has particularly benefited foreign staff of Hong Kong registered companies. They may apply for 2-year or 5-year multiple entry visas with priority processing. This measure has no cap on the number of applicants. Considering the needs of academic and scientific research institutions, we have discussed with the Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Hong Kong SAR. The OCMFA agreed to extend the priority processing applicable to foreign staff of Hong Kong registered companies to academic and scientific research institutions in Hong Kong. Applicants are only required to complete the visa application forms online and go directly to the Chinese Visa Application Service Center in Wan Chai for completion of processing. The visas are to be collected on the next day at the earliest, and there is no cap on the number of applications. Such a tailor-made policy for the Hong Kong SAR will help attract high-end corporations and talents around the world to settle in Hong Kong and gather as well as take root in the GBA. 3. The Shenzhen Hong Kong Science and Technology Innovation Cooperation Zone locates at the convergence point of the Northern Metropolis and the GB and the Guangdong-Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Corridor. It consists of the 87-hectare Hong Kong Park and the 300-hectare Shenzhen Park. The first 3 buildings of the first phase of the Hong Kong Park will be completed gradually from the end of 2024 as planned. The cooperation zone will operate under the model of 1 zone, 2 parks, with scientific researchers going to work early and returning home late between the 2 parks every day in future. As such, it is necessary to provide convenient clearance mode and facilities for designated personnel to cross the border conveniently. The Security Bureau will collaborate with the mainland authorities concerned to actively explore an innovative clearance mode, which will allow designated scientific researchers between the 2 places to go through immigration clearance by using a cross-river footbridge connecting the 2 parks. Upon pre-verification of their eligibility, the personal data of these researchers will be kept in a database for comparison purpose during clearance. For entry or exit via the cross-river footbridge, they only have to scan their faces in front of the camera as the automatic channels and use face recognition technology to verify their identities against the database. They are not required to present any identification documents or QR codes during the process. The immigration clearance will be completed upon successful verification, thereby achieving contactless clearance. Looking ahead, we will continue to maintain close communication with the mainland authorities on the solid basis of the southbound and northbound policies. with a view to further promoting the interactions and exchanges of talents in the GBA and building a high-level talents cluster in the GBA. At the same time, we will make strenuous efforts to tie in with the developments of the cooperation zone to ensure that scientific researchers can travel conveniently between the parks so as to make greater contribution to the higher quality developments of our country. Thank you. Professor Wong. Foreign researchers working in the universities had difficulties traveling to the mainland. They are limited by the troublesome visa requirements. We thank the government for liaising with the OCMFA so that foreign researchers in our universities can make use of the multiple entry visa arrangements. This is a significant facilitation measure. Has the arrangement begun already? How will the government inform the arrangement to the research institutions? Secretary. Thank you, President. The measure has already been put into place. We have published the relevant application procedures online. We will reach out to the relevant institutions about the arrangements. Mr. Ma Fong-kwok. Thank you. In the policy address, the CE proposed allowing foreign staffs working in Hong Kong registered companies to apply for multiple entry visas for 2 or 5 years. This is great. Now, under the 14th Five-Year Plan, Hong Kong is given the position of an East meets West melting pot of cultural activities. There will be more and more exchanges between cultural personnel in terms of training, exhibitions, and so on. These cultural activities are important for our art base. The majority of these art and cultural personnel are not employed by companies registered in Hong Kong. So will the arrangements cover arts and cultural personnel as well? If not, will the government strive for the extension of the measure to these personnel? Secretary, the original intent of this measure is to offer facilitation to foreign staff employed by Hong Kong registered companies. They would be given priority processing. For other categories of talent, can we extend the scope to them so that they can enjoy priority processing as well? Well, we will continue to discuss this with the OCMFA. Thank you, Mr. Yim Kong. Concerning multiple entry visas, will the government liaise with the mainland authorities so that foreign staff employed by foreign companies registered in Hong Kong can also apply for multiple entry visas with a validity period of 2 years to Hong Kong as well? Secretary, we have this northbound and the southbound scheme. For the southbound scheme, we allow mainland talents to enjoy multiple entry to Hong Kong under one visa. The objectives of the two schemes are different. Whether we will extend the same arrangements to foreign staff working in companies registered overseas, well, we have to look into it. At present, they are not covered. Mr. Frankie Yang. Thank you, President. The exit endorsement covers 6 categories of talents. But these 6 categories are not sufficient in facilitating flow of talents between Hong Kong and the mainland. Besides extending the scope to foreign staff employed by Hong Kong registered companies, will the government consider extending the categories and increasing the applicable scope as well. Secretary, as I mentioned, in the first phase of our policy, we want to facilitate foreign staff working in Hong Kong registered companies to work in the mainland. Having discussed the matter with the overseas MFA, we have extended the measure to academic and scientific research institution staff. We will consider other suggestions as well. Mrs. Regina IP, President, my question is about the northbound endorsement or the multiple entry visa for foreign staff employed by academic and scientific research institutions. I understand Professor Wong's focus is on scientific research. In Hong Kong, we have a lot of centers conducting research on international relationship or international politics. Now, the University of Hong Kong has just established a center on contemporary China and Hong Kong and the world. Will the government consider extending the arrangement to researchers on international politics? Secretary. Thank you. I've heard a lot of suggestions made by various members. We will consolidate members' views and convey your suggestions to the OCMFA. Thank you. Mr. Brave Chan. Thank you, President. I support the direction because it will help us attract more talents to boost our economy. Now, before there is a concrete policy, maybe we can roll out some pilot schemes and send out the message that there will be facilitation measures for talents to come and go. With the success of these pilot programs, then we have a much better foundation to work on. Secretary. Thank you, President. Mr. Chan mentioned about the contactless custom clearance mode. That is the example for facilitating custom clearance for scientific researchers working in the two parks. We have already extended the applicable scope of the scheme, and we will seek to extend the scope even more. Now, the contactless mode of custom clearance is a very convenient method of custom clearance. You only have to show your face without presenting any documents, and then you can pass through the immigration. Now, it involves comparison between databases, so there are some limitations. At the border control points, when we are talking about hundreds of thousands of visitors crossing the border each day, we need to feed the database with the personal data and biometric data for quick retrieval. Concerning contactless clearance, we will introduce the clearance mode in the hotel area first. And then we will seek to extend the arrangements to other control points. For border control points, maybe we can have a white list to replicate the hotel example. Dr. Johnny Ng, my question is about the hotel area as well. There will be contactless clearance for researchers. Now, the Secretary said the researchers will leave home early and return home late, but the fact is they may be staying overnight in the park. So will there be 24-hour custom clearance at the border control point? Secretary, this is only the preliminary stage. Concerning the operability of the arrangements, the ITIB is having a discussion with the mainland authorities. It is too early to say how long the border control points will be opened. Mr. LAI Tung-kwok. Thank you, President. The Secretary mentioned that with the contactless clearance model, researchers working at the two parks can cross to each side conveniently. That's great. So when they come to Hong Kong, how long can they stay in Hong Kong and what are the conditions of stay? Well, for those who work in the hotel area, they won't just stay for a few hours for lunch or for a meet-up with their friends. They need to work on the Hong Kong side as well. So have you considered this fact and make special arrangements for these scientific researchers so that they can work longer on the Hong Kong side? Secretary, the contactless clearance mode is a technology. Concerning the conditions of stay and the capacity of stay, as well as the duration, that is another matter. We have various work visas and also talents endorsements or work endorsements. On which endorsements would be most suitable for the future talents, we will work with the mainland authorities on that. Thank you.
Question 5, Mr. Adrian HO. Thank you, President. The Top Talent Pass Scheme TTPS has been implemented for 1 year. Government statistics show, as at the end of November last year, a total of 47,681 applications were approved under the scheme, of which 30,810 applicants have already come to Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1. of the respective numbers of applications rejected under categories A, B, and C of TTPS as at the end of December last year, as well as the percentages of such numbers in the total number of applications. 2. As there are views that some TTPS applicants have not actively complied with the time frame for coming to Hong Kong and securing a job offer after their applications have been approved. Of the current number of applicants who have successfully secured an offer in Hong Kong, among those who have come to Hong Kong under the scheme, as well as the distribution of the trades in which they are engaged and the time they have taken to secure a job offer. And 3, as there are views that TTPS is relatively lenient in terms of the work experience requirement for Category C applicants, as well as the vetting and approval criteria for the scheme as a whole, making the scheme susceptible to being exploited by some people as a big trick to immigrate to Hong Kong. For example, there are rumors that individual applicants have only come to Hong Kong for giving birth, travel convenience, enhancing their own CV, and so on, resulting in the scheme being tainted and not truly fulfilling its purpose of contributing to our economy. Of the countermeasures put in place by the government to perform proper gatekeeping for the scheme in order to curb and eliminate all kinds of improper use and abuse of the scheme, Secretary for Labor and Welfare. President, to ease the acute manpower shortage, the government newly launched the Top Talent Pass Scheme TTPS in end 2022 to trawl for outside quality talents to enrich the local talent pool. The TTPS is applicable to persons with 3 categories. Category A, persons with annual income reaching 2.5 million Hong Kong dollars or above in the year immediately preceding the date of application. Category B, full-time bachelor's degree graduates of the universities or institutions prescribed in the aggregate list of eligible universities with at least 3 years of work experience over the past 5 years immediately preceding the date of application, or Category C, full-time bachelor degree graduates of eligible universities or institutions in the past 5 years immediately preceding the date of application with less than 3 years of work experience. An eligible outside talent is not required to have secured a job offer in Hong Kong before application for a 2-year visa through TTPS to explore opportunities in Hong Kong. TTPS has received enthusiastic responses since its launch, as at end December last year, we received around 65,000 applications approved and approved nearly 51,000. Of these, around 36,000 talents arrived in Hong Kong. Along with the approved applications of other talent admission schemes, around 90,000 talents arrived in Hong Kong last year, far exceeding the government's annual target of admitting at least 35,000 talents. Our reply in consultation with the Immigration Department to the member's question is as follows. As at end December last year, there were around 65,000 applications under TTPS, of which around 3,000 were refused, accounting for 5% of the total number of applications. A detailed breakdown is at Annex. The main reasons for refusal were that the applicants did not meet the eligibility criteria of TTPS, including failing to meet the eligible annual income threshold under Category A, and not graduating from institutions in the aggregate list of eligible universities, and so on. 2 and 3, the eligibility criteria of TTPS are clear and transparent. The Immigration Department has all along been assessing each application rigorously on the basis of the eligibility criteria. Apart from examining whether an applicant meets the specific eligibility criteria under TTPS and normal immigration requirements, the Immigration Department will consider the individual circumstances of each application before deciding whether to approve it. Since last March, TTPS applicants with work experience are required to declare in their applications the sectors of their occupations. As at late December last year, more than 20% of the approved applicants came from financial services sector. Those from the commerce and trade sector and the innovation and technology sector each accounted for about 15%, while over 10% of the approved applicants came from the information and communication technology sector. In addition, among all the approved TTPS applicants, more than 70% of them are aged 40 or below, and individuals with high income or graduating from the world's top universities with at least 3 years of work experience, that is, applications under categories A and B of the scheme, also account for almost 80%. These quality talents are young, with high income or good academic qualifications, and possess extensive work experience and global vision. Their arrival in Hong Kong will help fill the manpower gaps in the local market and promote the development of major sectors. We welcome the talents from all over the world to come to Hong Kong for development by choosing appropriate talent admission schemes based on their backgrounds and needs. These schemes complement one another to proactively draw for diverse global talents with different academic and professional backgrounds to come and settle in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Talent Engage was established in October last year. One of its key functions is to maintain close contact with incoming talents and keep track of their development and needs in Hong Kong so as to provide them with comprehensive one-stop support services and help them settle down quickly in Hong Kong and contribute to the local economy. Although it is not a requirement for approved applicants to have secured job offers, they, upon applying for extension of stay before the expiry of their visas, will have to be employed or have established or joined in business in Hong Kong. The Immigration Department will follow the established mechanism in vetting relevant applications and play a stringent gatekeeping role to ensure that only applications of eligible persons will be approved. The Immigration Department also conducts surprise inspections from time to time, including verifying on-site the employing company's mode of operation, financial status, and so on, to determine whether the information reported by an applicant or his employing company is true. If one is suspected to have submitted an application based on a false employment relationship or the authenticity of documents submitted by the applicant is in doubt, the Immigration Department will promptly follow up and conduct investigations. The department will also take decisive law enforcement action if there is sufficient evidence. Should any person be found to have illegally obtained his or her employment visa or residency, the visa or residence status granted will be invalidated according to the laws of Hong Kong. Mr. Adrian HO. Thank you, President. Whether the applicants or the number of applications far exceeded the government's target, I believe the effectiveness of TTPS is still dependent on the economic effectiveness and economic contributions they can bring to Hong Kong. In the main reply, the Immigration Department will be a gatekeeper, and the Hong Kong Talent Engage will also keep in close contact with incoming talents in order to help them with their settlement in Hong Kong. But I don't think these arrangements are sufficient. Apart from these number of inspections, what concrete ways can the administration follow up on the incoming talents under the TTPS situation in Hong Kong? That is to help them with their settlement in Hong Kong and their employment needs. This is a better way to take stock of the scheme in order to make suitable adjustments in the future. President, thank you, Mr. Adrian Ho's follow-up question. Mr. Adrian Ho is very correct. At present, the TTPS has been implemented for only 1 year. That's all the data we have. We also require the applicants to tell us their trade before the application in order to better evaluate the benefits of the scheme and the particulars of applicants. We are conducting a tracking study. We distribute questionnaires to incoming talents under TTPS. When we have results, we will share with members. We then will be in a better position to assess the economic benefits brought by the TTPS. What needs do the talents have in order to turn the scheme into better account? Mr. Chao Siu-chung, thank you, President. I do not oppose the implementation of TTPS to draw for talents, but to guard against abuse, this is the key to success. At the start of the implementation, there were rumors that TTPS applicants can come to Hong Kong to gain residency or give birth without having to work in Hong Kong or establishing business. There can also be false employment relationships for renewal of licenses or visas. The cost is $75,000. Among the 36,000 incoming talents that have arrived in Hong Kong, how many of them have stayed in Hong Kong for a month? Will the administration promote positive messages on online media platforms to combat abuse or any illegal behavior? Thank you, President. For any talents admitted under the TTPS or other admission schemes, we use a set of stringent criteria of approval. On renewal, we will also assess the situation with rigorous criteria. Under the TTPS, the criteria are very clear. As long as one is a high earner or has good educational qualifications, that will suffice. But after 2 years, upon renewal, we have set down very clear requirements. One has to have a job that matches the education qualifications, or one has to have opened a company. The immigration department will be a strict gatekeeper. When there are false messages on mainland media platforms, we will disseminate positive messages telling them they need to have a job offer or a business in Hong Kong before they can be approved to continue to stay in Hong Kong. Thank you, President. Dr. Tan Yue-heng. Thank you, President. The purpose of the TTPS is to ease the acute manpower shortage. Right now, there are 60,000 odd applications. 30,000 odd applicants have come to Hong Kong. They've been approved, surpassing the administration's target. Has the administration assessed the number of talents that have been replenished? That is because we do want to ease the acute manpower shortage. The financial services sector accounts for 20%. How many applicants are now working in the financial services sector? Do you have any plans to extend the aggregate list of eligible universities? Secretary, thank you, Dr. Tan, for your question. Since the implementation of the TTPS, it's been a year. The data we have are the number of applications and the trade that they work in before the application. With their particulars or information, we'll look in great detail how many of them have secured a job offer in Hong Kong. If so, what are their main job types? As you said, the purpose of the TTPS is to replenish the talent pool and to ease the acute manpower shortage. Across different sectors, there are manpower crunches. We face the situation squarely. we are nearing the end of the questionnaire work. Upon completion, we will share the results of the questionnaires. Through concrete figures, we can share with all of you the economic benefits of the TTPS. Thank you, President. I have to declare I am the president of a body of the TTPS. There are good results of the TTPS. Tens of thousands of applicants have already obtained a Hong Kong ID card. But the demographic dividend needs to span a wider range of areas in order to benefit Hong Kong. After incoming talents come to Hong Kong, they face difficulties, especially for Category A, B, C applicants. They face different issues. For example, under Category A, applicants have difficulty in setting up businesses. Category B, education issues of their children. And for Category C, they face yet other issues. Has the Secretary worked with other bureaus and departments such as the FSTB or the Education Bureau or ITIB to jointly roll out a package of measures so that these incoming talents can stay in Hong Kong smoothly? If so, what measures will be rolled out? If no, are there any plans in the pipeline in order to provide support to incoming talents? Secretary, thank you, President. I thank Mr. Shang Hailong. Through the organization, we've been in touch with some incoming talents. As Mr. Shang mentioned, different incoming talents have different needs. The Hong Kong Talent Engage has been set up. One of the functions of the office is to help these incoming talents after they arrived in Hong Kong, including applicants of the TTPS. We have a partner network in place, including private organizations and some non-governmental organizations, as well as departments and bureaus within the government, such as the Education Bureau, which oversees education issues. Regarding how incoming talents can set up businesses, we can also provide information. They don't have a clear picture of the situation in Hong Kong. When they have sufficient information, they will be able to resolve the issues. But for other talents, they may require more information. When they put their heads together, they can share information and to see how they can better contribute to Hong Kong. Next, Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, President. On the number of applicants under the TTPS, well, I think the scheme is successful, but not completely successful. We are not sure about the employment status of the applicants under TTPS. We not only want to attract talents of TTPS to Hong Kong, but we also need to replenish the talent pool, especially for professional sectors, in order to inject economic impetus. Especially, we do want these talents to put down roots in Hong Kong. The Secretary mentioned a tracking study to better enhance the scheme. Just now, Mr. Chow also mentioned there are illegal elements in the community helping incoming talents to come to Hong Kong at a low cost. In order to plug the loophole, I'd like to ask the administration, will you require employers to report the number of TTPS applicants in order to combat this illegal behavior in order to close the loophole? Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Edmund Wong, for the question. The TTPS is the same as other talent admission schemes. This means there are different criteria of respective talent admission schemes. These are the criteria we go by. I'd like to make some clarifications and set the record straight. One must obtain a job offer, and the job offer must dovetail with one's education qualifications, or one needs to have businesses set up in Hong Kong. The Immigration Department will be a strict gatekeeper. On different occasions, including our meetings with TTPS applicants, will make clear this message. In other words, will let TTPS applicants know that we will be a strict gatekeeper, so they shouldn't exploit loopholes. Next, Mr. Lam Chen Sing. Thank you, President. The effectiveness of the TTPS does not depend on the number of applicants. We do not judge whether a scheme is successful just with the number of applications approved. We need to look at whether the incoming talents are working in trades of the 8 centers in Hong Kong. A TTPS applicant working in biotechnological company is applying for a position in our organization, in our party. Can some enterprises go to Mainland to tell them to give them details of the TTPS? If they are interested, they can right away come over to Hong Kong. Then you will be in a better position to understand their employment status and situation. Secretary, the number of applications and applications approved are only some of the factors in whether the scheme is a success. We also need to see the economic benefits the scheme can bring to Hong Kong. We need to see its impact on the economy and on social development. We are working on questionnaires. When we have sufficient information, we'll share with members of the public or members of the council. We need an evidence-based approach. Many incoming talents would like to land a job, so Hong Kong TE has been working hard on this front. In some trades with serious manpower crunches, we are exploring ways to give assistance. In some cities where there are more TTPS applicants, we'll disseminate information in relation to job seeking. We'll work more on this front. Next, Professor Priscilla Leung. Thank you, President. We need good policies in order to attract talents to come to Hong Kong. Hong Kong has its own strengths and advantages. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many incoming talents who have arrived in Hong Kong. I have personal experience, and I also know many TTPS applicants. They come across different difficulties in Hong Kong. On the taxation front, some family members of mine would like to start a family with a TTPS applicant. But for the stamp duty arrangements that have been enhanced, when the TTPS applicant is a Hong Kong permanent resident and has Hong Kong permanent residency and a Hong Kong property, originally the stamp duty is 7.5%. But then if that person is together with a TTPS applicant, the stamp duty rises to 15%. That is a kind of discrimination. Originally, there was no discrimination because of the stamp duty suspension arrangement. They want to start their family, they can simply wait for 7 years, but afterwards they need to change their family plan completely. Many TTPS applicants would like to come to Hong Kong to start up their own families. Well, Professor Priscilla Leung, please ask your question as soon as possible. Thank you, President. So, through me, they'd like to ask the administration, if you want talents to stay in Hong Kong, how do you show your sincerity to them? Do you provide job matching? Otherwise, the issues mentioned by members would surface. Well, you have already asked a question, Secretary. Professor Priscilla Leung, please take a seat. Secretary, please. Professor Priscilla Leung asked about a question about stamp duty arrangements, about residential properties. That is not under the purview of our Bureau. There are specific stamp duty arrangements. Last October, there was a policy address by the Chief Executive. There was a policy targeting incoming talents should they want to purchase residential properties in Hong Kong. That is the stamp duty suspension arrangement. For the concrete details, I will refer to the relevant policy bureau. Last question seeking an oral reply.
Mr. CHAN Hok-fung. President, the government will implement municipal solid waste charging, MSW charging. The policy intent is that it is primarily the responsibility of individual households to bear the charges for designated bags, DBs, and designated labels, DLs, so as to drive behavioral changes for achieving waste reduction. In this connection, will the government inform this council whether it has assessed if there will be a peak season of waste disposal prior to the implementation of MSW charging? If it has assessed and if the outcome is in the affirmative, of the corresponding measures in place, for instance, whether it will increase law enforcement manpower, extend the opening hours of facilities provided under Green at Community, and increase the number of food waste smart recycling bins too. Given that both DBs and DLs come with anti-counterfeit features, but recently rubbish bags purported to be DBs are available for sale on some mainland shopping websites, whether the government has gained an understanding if there's a price difference between the two, and whether it has studied if the purchase of this type of rubbish bags by the public and property management companies, PMCs, is in conflict with the intent of MSW charging. If it has studied and if the outcome is in affirmative of the follow-up actions, and as there have been criticisms about inadequate publicity on MSW charging, although it will be implemented soon, whether the government has formulated plans to conduct publicity in an overwhelming manner in collaboration with PMCs, owners, corporations, as well as district services and community care teams, with some of the details. Secretary for Environment and Ecology. President, the practice of waste reduction and recycling has long been deeply rooted in the culture of many advanced cities, and there is a need for Hong Kong to catch up. The implementation of municipal solid waste MSW charging and the introduction of new methods to promote waste reduction and recycling are important steps for Hong Kong SAR to cultivate the local practice of waste reduction, recycling, and build our ecological civilization. To implement MSW charging successfully, it is critical that the public has thorough understanding of the scheme and actively participates in it. I have earlier announced that the statutory commencement date of MSW charging will be revised to the 1st of August 2024, before which we will spare no time in promoting MSW charging in a more concrete manner to all sectors of the community, and starting from the 1st of April 2024, the government will demonstrate the implementation of MSW charging in government departments and some other buildings, which will serve as promotion to and education for the community. The Deputy Chief Secretary of Administration will lead and coordinate inter-bureau departmental collaboration within the government. My reply to the questions raised is as follows. 1. In the past, the annual peak period of waste disposal always occurred before the Lunar New Year. The Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, FHD, will be prepared for it. Starting from the 16th of January, the FHD will launch the annual year-end starting from the 16th of January, the FHD launched the annual year-end cleanup campaign across the territory. During the campaign, the FHD will establish over 200 temporary refuse collection points across all districts for residents to discard oversized household waste and increase the frequency of refuse and oversized waste collection in all districts. The FHD will spare no effort in combating illegal disposal of waste and will adopt a multi-pronged approach to combat fly tipping activities, including strengthening promotion and education, deploying designated enforcement teams to take enforcement actions, and using internet protocol cameras to gather evidence to assist in prosecutions. As for Green at Community, the Environmental Protection Department, EPD, has already requested operators to strengthen their manpower before the lunar year and expand the operating hours from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. on the 28th day of the last lunar month, so as to handle the possible increase in the amount of recyclables. In addition, new recycling stores in 50 public rental housing estates will commence operation progressively around the 1st of April, among which Green at Kwai Fong, Green at Tai Warhan, Green at Kai Yip have already commenced their services. The public recycling spots over the territory will be progressively increased to more than 220. For the recycling food waste, EPD has been progressively installing smart recycling bins for food waste collection in all public rental housing estates in Hong Kong. With the target of completing installation within 2024, we expect that smart food food waste recycling bins will be installed at 100 PRH estates before the Lunar New Year, covering over 710 building blocks and approximately 1.15 billion residents, and that accounts for half of the PRH estates in Hong Kong. EXPD is also providing assistance to private residential buildings to install smart recycling bins for food waste through the Recycling Fund and the Environment and Conservation Fund. We anticipate a total of 30 private housing estates and rural villages will be covered by the schemes, and with about 100 smart food waste recycling bins. To facilitate implementation of MSW charging, EPD has authorized supermarkets and convenience stores, pharmacies, and other platforms to sell designated bags DBs and designated labels DBs at over 3,000 sales points. The details have been announced on the 15th of January. The EPD has recently noticed that some garbage bags, which were claimed to be DBs, have been put up for sale on a Mainland website. One investigation is found that the website stated in the question is not an authorized retailer of EPD. The price is also relatively cheaper. They are not DBs as prescribed by the legislation and cannot be used as PBs. We have already reported the incident to the Hong Kong Customs and Excise Department Customs for follow-up investigation, and we would like to remind the public to purchase DBs and DLs only from authorized retail outlets and platforms with the authorization logo. Under the Trade Descriptions Ordinance, any person who sells or possesses for the purpose of selling counterfeit goods commits an offence and is liable on conviction to a maximum fine of $500,000 and to imprisonment for 5 years. EBD will keep in close communication with the customs to combat these illegal activities. 3. To facilitate different stakeholders in better understanding the arrangements of MSW charging, EBD has been organizing operational briefings and specialized trainings for stakeholders from all sectors since August last year. As at December 2023, we have conducted more than 250 physical or online meetings and briefings, reaching out to over 11,000 stakeholders from various trade sectors. Taking the property management and the environmental hygiene trades as examples, EPD has set up a working group with representatives of the trades and have jointly formulated best practice guides and training videos. EPD is also actively conducting briefings and training sessions for property management companies and cleansing workers. We've been arranging briefings for different building organizations. Over 52 briefings have been organized with over 6,000 participants. We're also collaborating with the Property Management Services Authority to organize continuing professional development seminars for on MSW charging for holders of the property management practitioner license and representatives of licensed management companies. Furthermore, EPD is now conducting briefings on the policy and implementation details of MSW charging for district councils and their subcommittees. And then the EPD will also attend seminars organized by district personalities. We are liaising with the Home Affairs Department to engage the district service and community care teams of the 18 districts to help in publicizing MSW charging. EPD also attends briefings organized by district personalities and will mobilize all departments to help in publicizing the charging scheme. The overall public education and promotion campaign on the charging scheme will be carried out continuously with greater efforts to enhance public understanding on the arrangements. Thank you. Mr. CHAN Hok-fung. 2 days ago, the Secretary pointed out in radio interview said that the people still have many questions, and in many places it may take 3 to 5 years for people to become used to waste charging schemes. So means it's a sea change in arrangement. Now, maybe people want to learn more about the scheme, but if they don't get enough information, would you extend the phasing-in period so there's a longer phasing period for members of the public to better understand the scheme? Thank you. Secretary. As I mentioned in the main reply, starting from the 1st of April, we will do some trial schemes at government departments. We'll also arrange for some other buildings to have trial schemes. Well, one purpose is for a drill, so buildings taking part will be able to rehearse how to implement the scheme. The other purpose is demonstration. So there will be on-site demonstration for members of the public and others to see how the scheme actually works. We believe that is the best way to respond to the various questions people have about the scheme on different scenarios. So people know what to do in different scenarios. We believe on-site demonstration will help put people's mind at ease. That's why we have postponed the implementation date to the 1st of August. And then there will still be a phasing-in period. And as the member asked, during the phasing-in period, we will give time to the public to slowly adapt to the scheme. Now, we want everyone in the community to change their behavior and habits and reduce waste. That really takes some time. Now, we've set the phasing period to be 6 months. It's not a short period of time, but of course, the whole purpose is to encourage everyone to learn and change their behavior. And if necessary, we will consider extending the phasing-in period. Ms. Jovi Chen, thank you, President. First, I welcome the postponement of the implementation date because then we could do better preparation. I believe most in the committee would agree that the previous promotion is not satisfactory. Now, I want to talk about the recycling food waste in public rental housing estates. Now, you have set KPIs and timelines. I think that's good. But then this just accounts for a small percentage of food waste. For estate management, there's need for special support. For example, in Xinwan, our team receives calls for help from many residents. Before this scheme comes in place, already the management fees have been substantially increased by some 30% in some cases. Now, some assess the additional waste charge may be $30, but already management fees are up by $60. And then there are other housing estates. Ms. Jovi Chen, please come to your question. Now, the Secretary explained that for bigger items, there is need for the $11 designated labels. But then there are charges of some $300 in some estates. Now, the Secretary said that it will be organizing talks together with property management sector, but that's not enough. Are there any administrative penalties for the bad elements in the sector who try to rip off the public, taking advantage of the MSW charging scheme? Secretary. Well, in each trade, there may be a way for the trade to operate to meet certain needs. Now, Ms. Chen mentioned penalties, say for charging for large items. Some property management may charge $300 for an item. For example, for a bed, for a large sofa, they may charge $300 or $250 and so on. But in fact, under the MSW charging scheme, the designated label costs $11. So if there's need to stick a label, it's $11. Of course, if it's based on wage, then there will be different charges for different furniture items. But then we'll be just talking about $20, $30 to or so for smaller furniture items. So I think what is most important is that for the property management companies or the cleaning contractors, they need to handle the waste and then the amounts they charge compared to what the government is charging must be transparent. So that's why we'll be talking to the property management associations and companies. And then in the best practice guides, we will state clearly that they need to state the fees clearly, so people know what the property management company is charging and what the other operators are charging and so on. And Mr. Stephen Ho. Now, this council has been following up on the NMSW charging scheme quite frequently in recent weeks, but then the public may still not find the scheme acceptable. I think the public should give the SL government a bit of time to adjust their sales and come up with a new promotional campaign after today. Now, I'm not happy entirely with your May reply. You know, there are some property management companies starting to increase fees. If they're just charging an extra $30 or so, it's fine. But then they're going far beyond what the government is charging for a designated label. They're charging $300, $1,000 for disposing large items. So these are ways actually to profit tier from the scheme. They are charging, but then they're actually charging not for the designated label, but for the manpower needed to remove the item. So you need to deal with such manipulation, because even if the scheme is only to start on the 1st of August, the public will still be ripped off by the bad elements in the property management sector. So do we need to ask residents to call a meeting and replace the property management company so that there will be proper compliance with the MSW Chang scheme? But before then, I'm sure the government must have a way to deal with overcharging. So don't just talk about the best practice guides. Tell me what exactly you can do. Can you take a seat, Tax Secretary? President, just now I briefly explained the government's fees, but it seems that Mr. Stephen Ho's concern is the overall charge of property management companies. I've explained this on different occasions. The way waste disposal is done is similar to what's being done now. That is, you put waste in a bag, and then maybe there are the refuse bins on the back stairs, or there's a garbage chute, and so waste is collected that way. In future, what people need to do is just to buy a designated bag. As for large furniture items, when this are disposed of, there are different practices in different housing estates, but mostly is they will engage contractors to. You can either ask someone to pay someone to move the waste to the nearby refuse collection point, or you can ask a cleaning company how much you're going to charge me for removing this large item for us. So these are usually ways people take to dispose of their furniture items. For example, they pay $200, $150, and so on for the items to be moved to refuse collection points for disposal. So in some cases, the fees are all listed out. That is how much the transportation costs, how much the cleaning company is charging, and so on. But very often what they don't list out is that what the cost of waste disposal is actually. So there's a need to clear such misunderstanding. Right now, when people discharge or dispose of furniture items, already they have to pay for that. So the MSW charging scheme does not change that at all. That's why what we need to do is to explain this clearly to the public, what the government is charging for waste disposal. It's not about changing the whole waste disposal practice. Mr. Chan Hok-fung. Recycling and reuse are an important aspect of reducing municipal solid waste. Now we have green at community retail shops. There are just 45 now across the territory. Of course, there are also 145 mobile recycling stations, but they only go to a particular location once a week for 3 hours, say from 9:30 to 12:30 or from 2 to 5 p.m. And then for those who have to go to work, there's no way they could dispose of the recyclables. And there are a serious shortage of recycling locations. So what plan does the government have to expand the network of the green community facilities? Or are you going to extend the opening hours so it's easier for people to dispose of the recyclables? Now, after we implement the MSW charging scheme, we believe there will be a substantial increase in the amount of recyclables. In fact, in the past few years, we've been expanding the Green Community Network. Over the past 3 years, we've seen already a 7-fold increase in recyclables received. And in recent months, of course, we're doing more publicity about the MSW charging scheme. So in the past months or so, we've seen a 50% increase in recyclables received. So there's a rapid pace. That's why we've asked green community operators to be prepared. They need to increase the manpower. They also need to provide more recycling spots. Now, you mentioned that about the opening hours of the green community facilities and also the mobile recycling points. Now, could the hours be extended to cater for those who need to go to work? Well, yes, we are fully aware of that. We will discuss that with our operators to see if they could extend the hours or change the way they operate to make it more convenient for the public. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, President. Well, I think the Secretary is totally out of touch. I tried disposing waste item at the recycling refuse collection point, but then the cleaning contractor workers told me this is not the place for this kind of waste, and he just pointed to a banner to say that we can't dispose of such waste there, and on the banner it just says that this is not a place for disposing dangerous waste or hazardous waste. So for frontline workers, do they know exactly how they should deal with large waste items? If they don't get it, then how do you expect us to dispose of waste? How are we supposed to do it? Secretary, I do not fully follow the issue that Mr. Dennis Leung is talking about. But I can say that for refuse collection points, they will not accept hazardous waste or construction waste. Outside of these two types of waste, for domestic waste, refuse collection points should take them, including old furniture. So please give me more information, and so I'll find out exactly what happened. On the training of frontline workers, of course, we're going to do more. And we'll make sure they have proper training, especially when we start the MSW Chinese school. We'll make sure it works smoothly.
Motions with no legislative effect. Dr. The Honorable